judgment, and ability.
Thank you so much. Welcome. And I hope it's okay to share that you're coming to your role as board member with a lot of significant experience in having worked with Intermediate District 287 in the past as the superintendent of the Orono School District. So we're very pleased to have you.
Thank you.
Next, we will move to approval of our general meeting agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Shannon Andreessen and a second by Heidi Marty. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the agenda is approved. Next is open forum for community comments where members of our community can share thoughts and comments with the board. And I don't believe we have anybody who has requested time to do so this evening. Thank you so much. Next, then we'll move to approval of the consent agenda containing routine business items that we approve as a slate, unless there is an item that a board member would like removed for individual discussion and consideration. Round, don't see any. So with that, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion by Jackie Mosqueda Jones and a second by Ruthie Dallas. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the consent agenda is approved, and welcome to Mike from Minnetonka, who I mentioned will probably be with us momentarily. We move next to one of our favorite parts of every meeting, share the success and recognitions. This evening, I'm excited to welcome Scott Swanson, our assistant principal at Hennepin Technical College Programs and Tech Center, to introduce the recipient this evening.
I almost said good morning. Good evening, Madam Chair. So I get the honor of introducing Miss Shannon Dyrud to you all. Shannon and I have worked together for several years. She is an ELL teacher in our district. She has a strong passion for supporting our students who oftentimes need additional support because of language barriers. She supports primarily across our ALCs. So when you think of someone who is flexible in the needs of the job, we have a very transient population in our ALCs, and Shannon's obligations change every single week because we might have 5 new students who now need EL services in one of our ALCs. And she is popping back and forth between schools, making sure that when those students are present, that she is providing those supports for them. So welcome, Shannon.
So I guess I'm Shannon Dyrud, and I'm a multilingual teacher. I grew up in Brazil, and I've also worked overseas for many years. So for me, culture and languages are really passionate in my life, and I've done this for about 20 some years now, and 8 years in the district, 287. So I just have a passion for students, and like Scott said, you know, some days I have 5 here, next day I have 10 there, and they come with all sorts of different needs. I mean, some have no language, some have been for many years and just need support. So my job is to go into the classroom to support needs, help them, pulling them out of the classroom if they need support. Yeah, I guess that's kind of my day. I travel to, I think I've been to all the sites at some point. So within the 8 years, I've worked at all the sites, but this year I'm at 3, which is the Hennepin Technical College, West Education Center, and the Care and Treatment Programs. So those are very, I mean, they come and go very quickly at the Care and Treatment, but I have a couple there. So whenever there's a student, they call me up and I'm ready to go. So, thank you for this, having me here.
Thank you. So glad we get to recognize you for the incredibly important work you do across lots of different aspects of our district. Any comments or questions before we let you step away from the podium and the microphone? Go ahead.
You can go ahead.
No, I think you might be the one that's
saying the same thing I.
Yeah,
am.
probably so for those of you guys who don't know, Ms. Casey and I had the great opportunity of visiting your location down in Eden Prairie, meeting our, the wonderful assistant principal there, and really getting to talk to him and, hear from you and recognize you and all that in front of all your students. And, the round of applause you got was very heartening and all that. And it was just so great to see the work you've been doing. We had a student, that you've been working with who was, new to the country and whatnot. And, hearing his story and all that was just very inspiring. So
Thank
thanks so
you.
much for all your work, and we're excited to have you back and see what you do next.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say. except that It was so fun to surprise you. That was amazing.
was.
And just to see the students, because I mean, I know you don't work with all of the students that were gathered there, but all of them were gathered and super excited to see this. So it was obvious to see how you connect with students beyond the ones that you're directly working with. So that was
Thank you.
very clear to see. So you said this was one of our favorite things in this meeting. It was also one of my favorite parts of being an HCC on Tuesday was that.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's do one more round of applause. Thank you. We hope you also enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. Thanks for spending a little bit of it with us. We will move next to this superintendent's report, and I will let the superintendent introduce the one item on the agenda this evening.
Thank you. I'll ask Valerie Doslin to come on up. Valerie is our lobbyist that supports all of the intermediates. And Valerie's here to provide an overview of the legislative session as well as the intermediate platform priorities that we will be focusing on this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Down and board members. It's nice to be here. I always appreciate my visit. The legislative session begins on February 12th. It is the second year of our legislative biennial cycle. Last year was, as you all are aware, the budget year. This year is going to be much shorter. The November forecast provided some mixed news. And I think if you just looked at the headlines, you'd think, oh, we have all this money. Well, that's actually not the case. We do have a budget surplus of about 2.4 billion. But if you've been meeting with your local area legislators, they've probably given a lot of caveats to that. We do have a surplus, but it is one time for this current biennium. Into the next biennium, however, they are not expecting that surplus to continue. And they're expecting a very small structural balance of 86 million. That's assuming the legislature takes no action on the current surplus that we have. Now, we will have a new budget forecast in February, in the end of February, and that's the forecast that the legislature and the governor will use to make any spending decisions. I don't expect to see any governor's budget recommendations until after that forecast. But I would also note, the governor and legislative leaders all have expressed caution and said that this next session is not a time for big things. Last session was. This session is a time to just look at what needs to be fixed or triaged and then focus on a bonding bill. Now, having said that, I still think it's important to communicate with legislators about the need that school districts are facing. We've heard from legislators, they understand. Some legislators love to tout the historic investments in education, but I think many are starting to really understand that it was a good step last session and school districts are grateful for the money, but you all are most likely facing budget challenges, and the legislature is starting to understand that. So I think we'll hear some conversations. While we won't be able to advance things like money on the formula or maybe ongoing funding for unemployment insurance, they still need to know about the need, whether it's the intermediates or at your local school district level. Some issues that we know will be coming front and center. First and foremost, on the very first day of session, the House Education Policy Committee is going to be looking at the bill to address the school resource officer issue and to clarify the language that was passed last session. There's not agreement on that bill. It's going to be controversial, and I think the first few hearings will be very long with a lot of debate. I haven't heard the next steps in the Senate yet, but I would presume that the hearings in the Senate will be scheduled in the next week or two. In regards to the intermediate priorities, we have 4 items on the platform. For the most part, I'm happy to say that they are new because a lot of the items that were on previous platforms passed. Yay. So the first one is looking at the special ed funding formula and how we can change it to address excess cost aid. And certainly Superintendent Dowd can speak more eloquently about it, but trying to get at excess cost aid and what happens when districts are, when students are full-time in a level 4 program. Another item is clarifying which districts are the have fiscal responsibilities for students who are in care and treatment facilities or wards of the state. And then we're going to ask for $1 million to support the work that the 4 intermediates are doing in your apprenticeship models. And then lastly, you'll see this item on a number of different platforms, but allowing school districts to hold in reserve the student support personnel aid because of the challenges with trying to hire those staff under the statute to allow you to keep the funding for a few more years so you can use it appropriately. That's it for my update.
That was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like so focused and so much information.
I had practice at intermediate 916 last night.
Okay. Great. Superintendent, is there anything that you'd like to add before we open it up for comments or questions?
The only thing I would like to share is just appreciation for the excess cost aid is being new to intermediates, a year and a half, realizing that in this, in Fed 4, what intermediates are experiencing is that there's an old law out there that they use general ed aid to defray the cost of special education for students that are in special ed 50% or more of the day. And so really saying, there's no other student where we ask gen ed to defray the cost. Cross subsidy is something else. And so for all of the intermediates and I'll just say for intermediate district 287, it'd be an additional $2.7 million of aid, special ed state aid, to support our expenditures instead of using gen ed to support our special ed expenditures. So we have a bill drafted and we're continuing to move it forward.
Wonderful. Thank you. Comments or questions?
I just want to say thank you for all the work that you do for so many school districts and for education and our scholars in general. I have a suggestion for the surplus. Pay for training for teachers for the READ Act.
I apologize. I forgot to mention that. That is a very big issue that legislators are very aware of, and there are lots of conversations going on with the authors of those bills. Yes, that's on my list. I was just overlooked it.
As you can probably tell, Jackie is a teacher, so top of mind. Oh, I got it. Oh, that's you as well. Any other comments or questions? It was that thorough. Kemp was like, yeah, we get it. Okay, thank you so much, Valerie.
you.
Really appreciate you being here. We are moving right along now to the instructional report, which this evening is an update from our care and treatment team. So excited to have you here. And Assistant Superintendent Elizabeth Lodge Rogers is going to do the introductions.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dowd. We're really happy to have our care and treatment team here. Our principal wasn't able to be here tonight, so I'm standing in Amanda Klupman's stead here just for a short moment. I'll invite Danny Berry, our assistant principal for care and treatment programs, and Samantha Thompson, who is a SEL coordinator in care and treatment, and Sarah Baker, who's a guidance counselor. She previously was with care and treatment. Now she's working in NSO, but she overlaps nicely. Come on up. What has been really a wonderful journey to watch is the evolution of the school improvement planning process within care and treatment. Care and treatment has ranged, right now we have 10 sites, 8, down to 8. Yeah, I forget consolidation. 8, and we've had as many as 12 sites. But across that, the geography, for those of you that have been with us a little bit on some of those opportunities, runs from north side at in Brooklyn Park, Prairie Care, all the way down to Prairie Care site in Edina and points in between. So across that geography and individual programs within those care and treatment sites, our care and treatment leadership team has been able to design and implement a really effective model for school improvement planning. And so I had said to him in the spring, you know, you shouldn't hide this good news. I don't think this is happening in care and treatments in a lot of places where they're actually doing school improvement planning. So they actually submitted to the Council for Exceptional Children Conference, International Conference, and were accepted. So we're pretty proud of that, but we're even more proud of the work they're doing, and we wanted them to share a little bit of that with you tonight. So I'll let you three come on up and take it away.
Again, thank you, Madam Chair, Superintendent Dowd, School Board, for the opportunity to share a little bit about our process in care and treatment. So our care and treatment programs in 287, we partner with 5 organizations across 8 sites. We provide general education as well as special education to students across a multitude of hospitals, day programs, residential facilities, as well as adjudicated youth. We have federal Setting 1 programs, and a big thing about care and treatment is that our enrollment varies a lot site to site. We can have a student for a day at one site and a student for 18 months to 2 years, depending on the program. We provide students with education in those care and treatment settings, allow students to continue their academics while they're with us and not able to be at their community school. And we make sure that our curriculum is aligned with state standards so that students are awarded grades as well as credit hours. And there it is.
Okay.
Thank you again for having us here. I'll have to say, as Elizabeth mentioned, I do working in NSO right now, but my heart still lies with care and treatment. So this is exciting for us.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So I'll just start off with a story, which we like to do in care and treatment. And we'll start with the story of this 78%. I know for many of you, school improvement processes maybe aren't that exciting, but it actually is in care and treatment. So the story of 78%, one summer evening, my daughter caught me working at the counter and said, what's the 78%? At the time, only 78% was written on the tablet of paper I was working on. And I started explaining about student outcomes and engagement and spreadsheet trackers, and that we were trying to get to 78%. And she said, 78% of what? And again, my attempted description of that resulted in her drawing this ironic piece of art, I like to call it. So we've shared this a few times in our SILT meetings in care and treatment over the years for a laugh, sometimes a reminder of how far we've come, but most importantly, as a bit of a cautionary tale to remind ourselves where our true focus lies and with whom. So our previous work in school improvement focused primarily on metrics, linear processes, data tracking, and a vision of improvement that really rested in the hands of a few people. Our focus was numbers, data, and you might even say complexity if you're looking at this, this image. The questions we most frequently asked under this approach were, what are students doing? Why aren't adults doing something different? And how do we get to 78%? Our experience at times, I think, during that process was confused, sometimes contentious, and often siloed. So we just didn't really know that at the time. And then COVID happened, and that 78% approach seemed pretty out of touch with what we were doing. So to build our path toward a reimagined school improvement process that really helped to redefine the work that we were doing, we started at the beginning. And in our case, that started with developing our care and treatment mission. So our mission in care and treatment is to create safe, empowering learning environments where a whole child approach to education promotes a passion for lifelong learning and prepares all students to meet their future goals and aspirations. This mission has over the years provided pivotal and lasting guidance for the work that we do in care and treatment, everyone in care and treatment believes and agrees that this is our work. We have wrapped ourselves around this mission and aimed to have this as our grounding for what it is we want to provide for students in our care and treatment classrooms. The mission has served to focus our adult work, and it's been a touchstone for adjusting improvement to changing expectations and conditions that we've all experienced over the last several years. So our students in care and treatment, as we have mentioned, are in active mental health crisis. It's why they're with us. And whether that's for just a couple days, a couple months, or a couple years, we need to find a way to meet the needs and coalesce our work. Starting and returning year over year to our mission was one way we built a school improvement process in a place like our 8 sites in care and treatment that really helped us define student outcomes and coalesce our work as adults in these diverse settings and with our unique students. One of the ways that we really started to build coherency in our school improvement process was to develop and focus on professional development to address the questions that still persist. We might have been asking them differently at the beginning, but they still persist. What do adults know and what do adults need to know? If we really did believe that if we wanted to build a collaborative and empowered culture in care and treatment that focused our work on understanding student experiences, whether with us for a day, a week, a month, or a year, that we needed adults who had a solid foundation in and knowledge about themselves, how to build relationships, and a collective academic approach that focused on literacy, evidence-based practices. So we built this professional development framework that has stayed the same over the years, and it's centered around those 4 buckets that we believe are the core of our work: self-awareness, relationship skills, racial identity, and literacy, evidence-based practices. This framework those buckets have remained the same. What you see there as the professional development we provide every year to staff in care and treatment changes over time, but the focus of those 4 buckets doesn't ever change. And it has helped us align our work to the district priorities, keep us grounded in our mission, and bring back our focus to the students and what they're experiencing when they're with us. So the evolution of our school improvement has brought us more clearly and intentionally over the last 3 years to really name clearly how we do business in care and treatment, which is our integrated approach.
We created a visual of that integrated approach, which you'll see up there. This really came from in the 78% days. I remember sitting around the table with people, and it was really hard to care about the 78% until we got that mission statement. I mean, we had teachers come to the table and read things that students had written about how they actively wanted to die in that moment. And then meanwhile, they're like, and I'm supposed to be, but reading, I mean, it was really, really hard. And once we were able to start to build something that all of us could agree on and believe in, that's where we started. In the outer circle, you see connect and collaborate, because we knew that we couldn't collaborate with each other as adults or with students or the students with each other until we have connected. And you can't connect unless you believe in it, right? So that's where we are. We also noticed not only did we need to learn new things, but there were a lot of things we needed to unlearn, students as well. And we have to lead that way and manage that ourselves in order to get to that place where we can model that, which is the next, and advocate within our students. So in engaging in all of those activities and behaviors of that outer circle, we started to build like a container where we then had capacity to really dig into those inner circle things with evidence-based practices, like in all of those categories, be it equity, SEL, literacy-based academics. We were able to really go deep with all of those things because of those practices that we we're practicing. And we never, I don't think we have anyone who says we are experts in this, because we know that we are always growing and struggling and working through things all of the time.
And as we moved into our integrated approach in care and treatment, we realized that we needed to shift our data paradigm. By focusing on the elusive 78% that we've heard so much about, we were essentially doing data to our students. Moving our focus from the numbers to our care and treatment mission of creating safe and empowering learning environments that prepare all students to meet their future goals and aspirations, we came to the question, what do students need when they are with us? Due to the variety and the length of stay between programs and the fact that students who come to us are in active mental health crisis, we focus on what we can learn from students across care and treatment that we could influence while they are here. That is, creating spaces for students that are safe and that promote empowered belonging and positive student reading identity. We created the Social, Emotional, and Academic Survey, which is the C's, to gather student voices. Yeah, it has a fun name, the C's. The entrance survey asked students entering our programs about their past experiences in school, and the exit survey asked students to reflect on their time with us. By gathering student voices around statements like, everybody in this classroom honors my culture and knows how to pronounce my name, and I get chances to learn in different ways in this classroom, as well as reading identity questions like, I know what I like to read, or I can find books in this classroom that reflect at least one of my identities, cultures, and/or interests. We are gathering information that honors student experiences and guides our integrated approach. So we still use data. We're now gathering meaningful information about student experiences from students. Here you see the entrance and exit information gathered from students in the 2022-23 school year, which indicates a positive experience in care and treatment regarding feeling safe, empowered, and like they belong. Students also report a slightly higher level of positive reading identity in their responses to the Exit C's survey. This information has given us insight into how to continue our integrated experience across care and treatment by guiding our 23-24 school improvement plan, care and treatment-wide professional development, site-specific professional development, as well as our professional learning community work and outcomes. And to gather more of the story, we also asked students if there's anything else that they would like to share with us. And here are some examples of what care and treatment students have shared.
So now a demonstration. If you could please, you don't have to say anything or tell anyone, but look around the room and just choose 2 random people in the room in your head. And now that after you've done that, go ahead and stand up and place yourself equidistant from those 2 people in the room, please.
Oh, okay. That's what happens.
I just gave.
Oh, boy.
We have to move. All right. So now I usually look for the tallest person in the room, which I believe is you. Could you go stand by the flag? All right. And now everybody still make sure you are equidistant from all of your people, even with that shift. Usually that moves a little bit more. So Elizabeth, I'm going to have you move over there. See if one more shift will make any difference. Again, be equidistant. You must have all chosen the same person. This just doesn't happen. So when we did this within care and treatment, moving one person shifted every single person in the room, just because, but this is weird because now I'm not looking for break, but what this is to represent is the complicated systems that a school is and that education is, and how you noticed even in just our presentation, we're like, we just focus on a few things, but we are always focusing on many, many things all the time, and new things are always being tossed at us. Well, now you have to do this READ Act. Well, now you have to do that. And we do all of those things, but our priorities remain the same. We just have to make shifts in order to continue these things. So that is our demonstration. So thank you. Thank you for having us today. And if you have any questions, let us know.
You have to wait for us to get back to
Yep.
our seat.
We're not gonna run out. We'll wait.
Thank you. It's always wonderful when people also get us up and moving around because it's important for adults in addition to being important for our students. Yeah, questions and comments. Jackie.
I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart as a parent of 2 children that went through Prairie Care in both of those locations that you are in. It not only helps those scholars, but it helps their whole entire family. So thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
I just want to say 2 times this week in 2 different locations, one being a Prairie Care location, I heard students say, school is the best part of my day. And I never, ever thought I would say that ever, as the student is saying this. And so we're doing really good work and I'm really, really proud of it. And so it's very exciting.
Shannon.
I just want to say thank you for this presentation because as a school board member who also works in the schools, we're always getting questions about data. And the way you presented this just speaks to why we all show up, right? It's the heart and that's why we're there. And you found a way to say it's not about that number. So thank you for that. It was really well thought out and kudos to you for just flipping that script and focusing on why you're there. Thank you.
Kim.
Yeah, I just think that voices get lost in data, right? And as you said, flipping that upside down and saying the voices are the data that we should be paying attention to is amazing. So I'm not surprised you're going to be sharing it with the world. That's great.
Very nice.
We're just hoping someone shows up to our session.
Candy balloons right outside your.
There you go.
house.
Ruthie, go ahead.
I want to say thank you to great presentation, and I like the integrated approach. I was just intrigued by the literacy-based academics. Could you say a little more about that?
Members, I'm not in care and treatment anymore, but I will do my best to speak to this. I think one thing I'm going to say before I answer your question directly is that one of the strengths that I think we built on in care and treatment that we really valued was this was a collective effort. We really intentionally gathered everyone's expertise. That was one thing we fostered actively, was when we're sitting around the table at our SILT meetings, everyone is an expert in what they do. This was not a top-down approach. And the same could be said for our literacy efforts. I think taking the work of our coaches, helping teachers bring in, varied texts for students, focusing from an administrative point of view, really bringing home, we want to see literacy in all of its forms, all over your classrooms at all times. I think it's really easy in a place like care and treatment to get overwhelmed by the other elements of student experience in those classrooms. So making sure that we were grounding all of our conversations in how are we bringing literacy skills How are we doing other sorts of assessment to find out where students need support with their literacy skills? We also do that in care and treatment, and we have staff who are experts in providing interventions and providing coaching to teachers to boost and further integrate literacy skills into their curriculum, no matter the content area. We have teachers in care and treatment who teach in all content areas. The hospitals primarily do more literacy-based elective work, but in our day programs, we have social studies, science, math, and English teachers. And so literacy is infused in all those things. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Part of the reason we use that language too is because some of our programs, because of the level of the mental health intervention that is needed, they're only in school for 2 hours of their day. And so we know that engaging in literacy-based academics, like we know literacy really touches on all of the different subjects. So as they re-enter into their schools after they leave whatever mental health supports they are getting, they will be still practicing with that school muscle and be working with those things. So that's another reason why we make sure we do something that will touch all subject areas, even if they're getting a very small portion of school during their stay.
Heidi.
Could you explain just a little bit deeper how you just describe positive reading identity?
Sure. In care and treatment and thinking about the different programs that we have between hospitals and day programs and wanting to ensure that we had a school improvement plan that all of our care and treatment staff would be able to follow, understand, and would be impactful. We did research and found reading identity is something that we could possibly, we were wondering, right? This is sort of just the jumping in and seeing what happens, could influence in our students. So in the reading identity, it looks at different aspects of a student's reading identity, whether that be habits, self-efficacy, book choice. There are a couple others that for some reason are out of my brain, probably because you're all staring at me. Attitudes, yeah. So things that we felt if a student was with us for one day, maybe we would be able to influence that. And certainly if students are with us for longer. So as we are looking at the data of students and what they're giving us as they exit, we're also taking a look at how they are self-identifying. We're taking a look at how long they've been in the program to really dive in and see what is it that we're doing that's influencing this and what do students need. So I'm happy to share what it is based off of, if you would like.
It's very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll also mention that our Cs went through several iterations. So we started with one version and then we got additional information and research and we tweaked questions or the way we asked questions. Once we found the literacy reading identity research, we added that and always under the lens of trying to tailor it to the students that are in our care and treatment programs. And again, they range in age from elementary to high school. So we did develop 2 different versions of the Cs. And we thought about accessibility for all students to access this. It's in a Google form, so we can easily sort of extract the data in the way that we want to have it. But I thought that's worth mentioning that the Cs was not a one and done. It took several years.
So can you talk more about the cadence for school improvement programs or plans from the standpoint of, you can put together the plan and the boat on the horizon is where you want to be a year from now. But as you have students coming in and out and you're getting that Cs data all the time, I mean, how do you use that in the course of a year to iterate that improvement program or plan?
That's it. I can start and you can finish. That's a great question. I think, again, big picture, the cadence of our school improvement work was pretty well defined in terms of our SILT organization, how we organize those meetings, what we talked about in those meetings, what we expected the staff who were on silt to share out at their sites. We went to a cohort model, so staff in certain programs would meet together, and the alignment between the district, our mission, and PLC goals and how SIP fits into that was very important, I think, to building that coherency and then building everybody understanding what it is that we're doing. And because we really worked hard to get everybody's voices in that. It was not a sell. It was, we've all agreed, this is what we're doing. In terms of the data, we do have a SAT team, so student assessment team, and that again meets on a monthly basis or maybe every 2 weeks, is aligned to PLC work. So we will pull data periodically to provide to cohorts to discuss in their PLC meetings from the Cs. So again, we're looking at the big picture of our Cs data to inform who are the students with us and how are they doing related to what we have defined as sort of those big buckets: safety, empowered belonging, and literacy in moments over time. We don't identify any of the data, although we have talked about doing that, but it's fraught with some issues in terms of identifying data and tracking that.
And since the way that our goal is written, we are looking for entrance and exit in one of our goals. So we do have a student identifier there, and we are able to share the reading identity information for teachers who want it. Student completes the survey, it pops right into their email. They're able to see if a student says, no, I don't like to read, I can't find anything, and they can just intervene right there. So that's one way as well. We also moved from just like the pictures that you get in the back end of a Google form, all of the, shapes and things, into Looker Studio. So it's more dynamic. Staff have access to it whenever they want. It's updated weekly, and they're able to kind of dive into that with their equity teams as well as PLCs. Thanks.
And that is all her. She did all that. So.
To see if there's any other comments or questions. I obviously echo all that's been shared. In particular, how exciting it is that other educators and programs will be able to hear about the work that is happening at Care and Treatment. And I think some of the really exciting ways that you're thinking about this. One of the things that I was thinking about as you were sharing is how much sort of personalized learning and student-centered learning is like one of the many educational buzzwords that's used a lot. And I feel like most people have no idea what it actually means or looks like. But I always think 287 is such a good example of what that can be. And then I think Care and Treatment and how you're talking about it tonight is a really, really close example of what it would mean to me to be truly personalized and student-centered and how we think about meeting the needs of our kids, their families, and broader communities. So I just wanted you to know, like, that's some of the things that I was thinking about as I was hearing you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was worthy of applause.
Okay.
So moving on, we do not have anything in our business services and labor relations report this evening. And of course, my computer just timed out as I started to speak. So we'll move next into board business. We have 3 policies that are here for second read and potential approval, and then 2 policies that are up for a first read. So I'm going to turn all 5 of these over to Superintendent Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first policy we'll look at is the school weapon policy. After the first read, there was no recommended changes, so we're moving forward as with no changes and approval.
Are there any final questions about the school weapon policy, which is policy 501? Not seeing any. Is there a motion to approve policy 501?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. We have a motion by Dan Ginestra and a second by Jackie Mosqueda Jones. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the policy is approved.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the next policy. It's policy 532, involvement of crisis teams and the use of peace officers, remove students with IEPs from school grounds. There was discussion on two topics. One of them is in the definitions section, section 3. When we talk about crisis teams, we included school safety coaches as a team member, because that's what we use in District 287, so that they can see themselves and what definition they would be categorized under. We also had discussion on the police liaison officer, and we decided to keep it in the, even though we do not have SROs in District 287, this is under the definition and just defining the difference. But we don't have any intention of changing our model. So that's the changes for the second read.
Any questions or comments about that? Is there a motion to approve policy 532?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Shannon Andreessen and a second by Kim Ross. Any final discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and policy 532 is approved.
Thank you. We'll go on to the next one, which is policy 515, protection of privacy and pupil records. No changes were recommended after the first read, so I'll move forward on the second read with approval.
Thank you. Any final comments or questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Or a second? We have a motion by Ann Casey and a second by Mike Rumacall. Any final discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and policy 515 is approved.
Thank you. And now we'll go on to the first reading of two policies. So we'll start with policy 514, bullying prohibit, oh my gosh, I can't say that. Prohibition policy. Thank you for helping me tonight. As you know, this is one of the policies that had legislative language changes, and so there are some significant changes that the ad hoc committee reviewed and moved forward. The first one really is just reviewing the policy title and series. We are aligning for anybody that's new on the board, we are aligning our policies with MSBA, so as we do the review, it's a little bit faster match. And then there were changes under purpose. We're removing old language to provide, and using MSBA language to provide clarity, and acknowledging that bullying may occur not under the supervision of staff. And we always have to talk about the nexus. Is it connected, or does it connect and cause an impact in the school day? And so it's addressing that nexus to school. The second is under the general statement policy. This had significant changes, especially under D. Those are legislative language changes. We accepted MSBA's model language. There was some renumbering. And so under 3 with definitions, again, minor language changes to align more with current definitions as part of the legislative changes, including what it means to be bullying, cyberbullying. It goes through all through that whole section. New components of it were F, G, and H. What does immediately mean? That means, so they put a definition, meaning possible no longer than 24 hours. Student, what does a student mean? And they added, actually it goes through I, malicious and sadistic conduct. And then what does on school premise and property mean? So those are added definitions to our current policy. Under reporting, it just talks more clear about how you report. It goes directly to the superintendent. And you can file it on the website. There'll be a form in which they can file for any bullying. Talks about a teacher's, if someone is known, an employee is known about any kind of bullying, that they need to report immediately. With E, we're really just talking about going to the superintendent or assistant superintendent. We put titles instead of names. G and H are added based on MSBA with the submission of good faith complaint or reporting of bullying, and that the privacy of the person that is providing the information is protected. Under district responses, we're just really renumbering, took out some old language and renumbering that occurred. Scroll through. The notice, section 8, is new information of how we give annual notice of our bullying practices and reporting practices. And then the legal references was all updated from MSBA. We did have, again, students review this, students, staff, administration. This is an area, students that were in care and treatment. Students expressed concerns that it's unfair, who gets accused of bullying, who's not. So we really talked about, it opened up conversation that maybe wasn't policy work, but what they're feeling around bullying and how it's handled on a day-to-day basis. And so it just led into more conversations about what does bullying mean? How do you protect yourself? Not necessarily policy work, but really good information for our staff to have and for us to consider, about our administration to consider, on how we support our students. They also wanted, as in a pattern, recommend pronoun neutral language. And that we talked about, based on the information and the changes in this policy, how we will do professional development for our staff, because it is some significant changes. Questions regarding policy 514?
And again, this is the first read, so it's a great time to ask the sort of more substantive, big picture questions before it would come back for any proposed approval. Or is there anything that members of the ad hoc committee would like to share about this particular policy?
We had a lot of conversations about bullying and when to report it and how to report it and who has to report it.
Everybody.
Everybody. We changed a lot of teacher language to staff, and
Yes. And that's why it makes sense. There's so many huge training implications. So that people really know this is what it is now, and these are the expectations. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
Asking, if this question's improper, you can just, stop me right here.
Okay.
So, when students were kind of asked to review this and whatnot, I mean, so, we find that a lot of them, if they were in care and treatment, as you mentioned, but a lot of them were kind of, relaying their own experiences, or these students who, are in care and treatment due to bullying. I was going to kind of ask about that.
That's a really interesting question. I'm gonna let the superintendent respond to that.
So we have students that were in our other programs also provide input, but for the students that were in care and treatment, we didn't ask about if this was a cause and effect, but they did share their personal stories. And so, and how they felt administration addressed those and where they thought they could have addressed it better. And it could be anywhere from District 287 to any member districts. And so I think it's something that we hear about, we hear often about the bullying that's going on, and then really reflect on what do we need to do as a staff. So when students are under our supervision and care, that they get immediate support and response.
just to get at, I think, some of what Jen's trying to, or to piggyback. Did you get perspectives from, about how staff treated people who were accused of bullying and people who were,
Both sides, right?
yeah, that's,
Yeah. It
because
really-
hurt people, right?
Yes, exactly. So it was actually both sides, in the sense of I was bullied and I was wrongfully accused of bullying. Like also unfair, some of the scenarios or feedback was I was accused of bullying and treated this way, and someone else was accused of bullying and treated differently. And that was really a lot of the conversation. They didn't feel like the discipline was fair or equal.
students are so attuned to that.
Mhm.
So attuned to that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you for that additional information and for both questions.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yeah,
This is
please.
super technical.
Yep.
Tiny thing, which is under D, what are we on? 2D,
2D.
the list of, it's the list of protected classes. At the very end, it says, and a sexual orientation and gender identity. Those are often put as like an and, but they're two different things in the Human Rights Act and in statute. So I would suggest just comma, sexual orientation, comma, and gender identity, so that those are
Yep.
separated. Yeah. We had to do that in a lot of policies as well.
Great, that is important.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And yeah, that's also just a good transition to if there are other things that come up as you are thinking about this between now and our next meeting, whether it's specific language fixes that need to be made, bigger picture questions. I would say you're certainly welcome to get in Marcy directly to share those things so they can be incorporated into the next phase. Okay, let's move on to policy 516 on student medication.
Thank you. So this is the first read of student medication. This is how, there's many medications and there's also been, there are policies about what is medication in schools and cannabis. That's not this policy. This policy is about administration of medication. We did have an internal procedure. We are moving any required policy by MSBA actually into a policy. And so this is a brand new policy for us called Student Medication 516. We took MSBA's language and accepted it at the ad hoc committee. And it also aligns with the current practice and procedures we implement here in District 287. For this one, we did have nurses review it as well as our special education team and administration. And all parties felt the language was clear, no recommendations to change MSBA's language, and felt it totally aligned with our current practices.
Straightforward.
Mhm.
With that being said, though, are there any comments or questions? Don't see any. So again, I would just say get in touch with the superintendent if that changes in the coming weeks. Thank you to the policy ad hoc committee, to the superintendent and members of the district team who participate in that group, but who also help make all of the engagement possible to get different perspectives that are sorely needed as part of this process. So we'll move on to board reports. It says none next to the chair report, but I am actually going to share one thing, and it's related to the policy ad hoc committee, which is I am no longer reliably able to attend because of a change in my job and my job schedule. And so I'm going to step down from the policy ad hoc committee, which means there is a spot available if there is another board member who would like to participate. We do not need to fill another spot. I would put in a plug that it is a really great group of people who are coming together and looking at this from a lot of different vantage points. And I think it's really exciting work for 287. And the superintendent has a real eye and heart for policy in a way that I personally appreciate. So wanted to share that with everybody. The next meeting is actually this coming Tuesday afternoon. So if you would also just be interested in checking it out, is it okay to extend an invite if you would like to see what that group sort of feels like and how it operates? We can get information to people, and then also just, I would say, let myself or the superintendent know if it's something that you would be interested in participating for the long term. Is it Tuesday at 4:30 p.m.?
4:30 to 6.
Okay, and it's in this room. So you can put that in your calendar if you're interested and able to attend this this coming
13th.
Tuesday, the 13th. Thank you.
And Marcy usually brings candy.
I do.
There you go.
And let me bring John. All right, we will. It's a big bowl. So in the district news section of the agenda, just as always, I'll highlight a couple upcoming events. The next meeting between school board members, district leaders, and Local 2209, which is our combined teachers and ESP Union of Educators, is on Tuesday, February 20th at 1 p.m. here in this building in room 316. It's just a great opportunity for conversation across everyone in the room about things that are happening in the district. If you would like to attend, please do let Juanine know because lunch is provided. We have one more Get on the Bus in the coming months, and Get on the Bus is the opportunity for board members to visit different 287 programs on site, as two of our board members shared earlier. And hopefully in a couple minutes, you'll share a little bit more about that. But the upcoming visit is to West Suburban Summer School. So one of our programs that really meets a unique need and population for District 287 member districts and others who choose to participate. So that visit will be on Tuesday, June 18th. So you've got a long time to think about it and get it in your calendar. And so we'll continue to share reminders and information as we get closer to that. Our next board meeting is February 22nd at 6:30 p.m. So just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that. And we move now to Once Around the Table, which is the opportunity for board members to share information with one another. I am going to go first tonight because we have a very special birthday in the room of the absolutely indispensable Juanine, with whom we would not function particularly well. So Juanine, happy birthday. Yay. Yeah, I hope you give yourself a rain check for a birthday tomorrow night. Okay, good. If somebody more musical than myself wants to sing happy birthday, have at it, but I'm not going to initiate that particular charge. But Juanine, thank you for everything that you do, for being with us tonight in particular. We appreciate you and wish you a wonderful year ahead. All right.
You can tell us later what it feels like to be 29.
Okay, with that, I will open it up for other things that board members would like to share with one another.
Already spoke. You.
Okay. Go ahead, Ann.
As Dan said earlier, we got to visit HTC. The new, can we make this announcement now?
Yeah.
Yes, it's in my newsletter
Okay.
tomorrow, so
Okay,
go
good.
for it.
So I even have I don't have the logo, but the newly branded 287 Career and Tech Center. Marcy, do you want to talk about that?
Sure, absolutely. So we have 3 programs located at Hennepin Technical College. And so it's our Gateway ALC, it's our Pathways for Career and Tech Education, and our Transition Programming. And we always say HTC. Well, that's, we're District 287 located at HTC. And so as they are growing their programs and really coming together and talking about who are we as a community, they asked to rename themselves and say, we want to be the Career and Tech Center. And so it was student votes of naming, it was staff recommendations, and they made these recommendations for their name, their umbrella name for the programs that are located at HTC. And they really wanted a logo. So they really were talking about who are we as an identity that's not within a District 287 building. And so been doing a lot of work around community and community building with the staff that are located there. And so that is the new name that was voted on amongst students and staff. And then there was also a logo, and you'll see it in the newsletter. And the logo was a mix between a previous student who shared her lived experience and what one of the programs meant to her. And she is an artist. And our communication specialist that works with Camille, Rachel, sat with her they both designed a logo and came up with one together. And then they came up with like 3 of them, and 3 of them, well, they probably came up with a lot more, but they narrowed it down to 3, and then 150 staff and students voted. And so the logo was identified when you get on the bus, but you'll see it at the newsletter, and it really talks about the journey of either transition or your pathway into career or your pathway to graduation. And it matches kind of the triangle of ours and the road that curves, because we talked about a road going straight, and the road does sometimes the curves, not windy, but just a slight curve. And so you'll see the visual in my newsletter.
So exciting.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting work. I mean, it's just like a, it's one of the places that has I mean, it just has a lot going on. There's welding, there's like mechanics, there's the certified nursing assistant program that they had all the what do you call those? Like yes, the bodies out. There was culinary. They were making corn muffins that were on the social media today. I saw.
Yep.
So you can check those out. So it was just like a great sort of feast to see like what all kinds of things are going on there, because it's a lot of different really cool stuff. And just to I think what really struck me is the opportunities that it gives our students to earn money while they're learning or after, right? That like it doesn't that they're getting qualifications for things like pretty quickly that then they can use for their life or to put themselves through more education or whatever it is. So that those kind of professional skills were it was very much on display. And I just wanted to also thank our student guides. We had a bunch of students that we got to interact with, and I didn't write all of the names down, but I do have the names of several of our guides. So Lali, Amari, and Makumba are the 3 that kind of helped us through different programs, and it was really fun to get to know them and hear their different stories. And so I just want to thank them, because it's a kind of a brave thing to say, yeah, I will, like take a bunch of school board members and administrators that I've never met before and like tell them about my life and show them my classrooms and all that stuff. And they did a beautiful job. So thanks to those students. I don't know, Dan, do you have anything to?
Yeah, really a flawless effort that the students put forward.
Yeah.
All the teachers and administrators getting to talk to them and everything. It was kind of interesting. I'm kind of a young guy, so it was a interesting experience. Seeing some of the students from Wayzata that I'd gone to school with.
Yeah.
Years past, who had gone to elementary school and whatnot, and they were still in the transition program, being special needs students and whatnot. Just that community. Running into this person again. So it was just really great to see that on a personal level. It's a large campus. I know Brian's over there smiling. Saw much the same. So it was very interesting hearing them speak and how well prepared they were, and they just really had a lot to say, and were clearly in a place where they were really able to thrive and talking up the program and how much it meant to them. So I'm grateful to them for all their effort. It was really great.
Wonderful. Thanks to
Was
you
it the
for
same
sharing.
Sitlali that came and spoke?
Yes. Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah, she was just a fabulous.
And I love that.
Yep.
So great. Anything else? All right, I don't see anything. So our next order of business will be in just a moment, having a vote to go into closed session to consider strategy for labor negotiations. Just want to make sure that I share while the recording is still happening that when we are finished with that closed session and return to open session, the only thing that we are going to do is adjourn the meeting. So the live stream will end here in just a moment once we officially go into closed session. As allowable by Minnesota State Statute 13D.03, the school board may hold a closed session to consider strategy for labor negotiations. Is there a motion to go into closed session? All right, I'm gonna say, we have a motion by Mike Ramacall, a second by Shannon Andreessen. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye. It is 7:41 PM. And so after a brief recess, let's say at 7:50, we will come back and begin the closed session here in this room and allow everybody else time to transition out and to enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm gonna make myself some tea.
Nicely done.
Thanks.
Okay. I wasn't even trying. I was hoping I had it right. So I'm glad.
Change your attitude. Also another, that's the student.
As do I. Sorry about that.
Yes, that's right.
Just taking in the next.
And I recognized her, but I would not pronounce the name, so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's flying out. She's seen her yet. Like, it's fair. Yeah, I'm like, she's like, I know.
Yeah, but it's different when you're doing that in a medical context.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, she's like, oh, it's kind of gross, some gross stuff.
So cute.
Yeah, she was really
I started in middle of November.
I did
A
connect.
few months in.
Okay.
But like I went from not.
Did you just get
Oh,
on?
I was.
Wonderful,
but very intense.
I had, how are you feeling about last board? And I asked,
Elizabeth. Yeah, really cool.
Melissa to exactly what's your director's turn.
I now.
Did that get happen? Did you hear anything?
I teach her at Columbia High School.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Oh,
My mom's dad's side.
Yeah.
So where are you at? Where are you?
I'm at, so all the schools are along one street except for our school. We're over by my Moore Lake. We're technically in Fridley, but we're in the city of Fridley, but we're.
There yesterday.
Columbia High School.
And I actually remember when I went through.
You did it. That needs to go for a STEM and sustainability school. Should be awesome. We do some really cool stuff there. Yeah. Pre-K.
Wow.
Thousand problems with my multiple hats.
I know it's funny. Let me outside.
Yeah.
There's a little elementary school.
There always is. Highland?
Highland. And then, yeah, the little neighborhood.
I mean, it started off being tricky because.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so he is, Fairway and H.
Right by the park. Correct.
Yep.
And
He walks in Kodiak Park and.
I was like, oh, I have your cell phone.
You got to be an award, you know.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, it was like school. We'll figure it out.
Line, like how.
I was like, sure.
Looking at you, see, I think it's right.
Yeah. Well,
Good.
we're working on really interesting. One high school, 3 Spring Break. And another town. And then, you got New Brighton there, that's tiny. And then you've got, that's tiny. And then you've got, Spring Break is left. So the school districts, like they're right next to each other, these tiny districts, and you wonder why. It's all school district.
So I know like Mounds.
And it's a personal time.
Yeah, because New Brighton had.
Yeah, and I don't know how many schools they have, but there's a little, really is a small district. Let me head, I just.
Oh, it was, you just said it.
Oh, so you let me know and we'll just go a different way.
Be going into.
Yeah. Well, apparently they're supposed to have a paraprofessional.
Yeah.
With the Gemini.
So like,
Bring it up. That's where I.
Oh.
policies.
No,
I
no.
could do that. I have nothing.
Yeah, and Fridley High School is. We
Yes.
got.
And
we
so
got-
last year we started this whole effort.
we have-
Because I think they're. And so, yeah. Something like.
Like anytime.
Yeah.
Been there.
I love that area. I just.
It's been a
We've got everything.
Like grandpa's in the-
I will ask in the morning now about making sure that. It is.
Sure.
Process. That is
He
amazing.
was saying that we have a lot of small Americans.
Of what now?
Yep.
You know, you can-
Yeah, sure.
There's a
Well, yeah.
whole bunch of Salvadorian refugees that just showed up.
Our,
And we have that situation.
Oh, nice. Oh.
so the
We have
PE
students
is
like from the head of
Jackie.
the shelter to one of our elementary schools.
March.
Yeah, SU has it too, but Columbia Heights.
Our,
I'm at a small school. We have 450 kids in the whole Well, we got 34 new
And
students.
then Crystal was on.
Think about the percentage of students, like
Little
34,
less than 10. Wow.
34, and we already had an Ecuadorian population. I think that's why, there's several. It's been how that,
Policy on.
we're adjusting to having.
Right, so we started there, and,
Students.
and that
Newcomers.
incorporated,
I mean, your guys' district is
no, hearing.
Osceola, yeah.
Yeah, you guys have.
And so after.
Well, there's 21,000
these
students.
policies, We also
Um,
talked about the policy on.
yeah.
housing.
Well, it's,
Looked at
Osceola's the.
any of the work we've been doing, might inform or cause us to think.
It's an Okahanna
It's number one.
So now